Hey, what is up guys? Welcome to another episode of Get Better at Yu-Gi-Oh! So, I know that this picture right here, what the heck is this, Asian Ice? I've never seen this thing before. Don't worry, I'll get to that in a moment. If you play Black Ops, so you'll get the reference. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about why we play certain copies of certain cards when we realistically can't even use this. So this can actually apply to a lot of different games, and I know it's been a while since we did any videos in this series, so if you guys are new to the series, highly recommend you guys check it out from episode 1. There's a lot of different stuff that we'll kind of be mentioning in the video, but for the most part, it all really comes down to consistency, because what actually made me want to make this video was some player had a really good point, and we'll definitely address his point. So I was on some Yu-Gi-Oh forum, and a lot of people were commenting, calling this guy a noob. But you know, he actually does have like a point. So his point was that you only need to play one Stellar Knight Deneb, because all you need to do is resolve the effect of one Stellar Knight Deneb, and then from there you go ahead and add with the Altair, and then you Altair into Deneb. Deneb adds you another Altair, and you basically recycle everything. Now, there is one point that you can make, which is that what if that one Deneb gets bottomless? What if it gets banished somehow, depersoned? Whatever happens to Deneb, what if that goes away? Now, that can also be a factor, but the main factor is it adds consistency to your deck. And in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, having a strong first turn is definitely super important in the game, because there's so many different things that can just lock you out of playing the game, especially if you're playing a deck that revolves around locking your opponent out, or a deck that maybe doesn't play any MSTs, or maybe it has no out to the Jin lock. There are certain locks that you just can't get out of in certain decks when you want to have super strong consistency. And then obviously if you're hurting that consistency, that can definitely affect how the game goes. So like I said, the guy had a good point where, you know, like I said before, you can recycle the same copy of Deneb over and over, because you're going to recycle and basically Altair into Deneb, and then you just add another one. But the thing that he, like I said, that he failed to realize is that it adds consistency to your deck. We've already talked about this in a previous episode of Get Better at Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, a lot of players were also talking about the whole idea behind, like, you still run 3 copies of Summoner Art in a Klee deck, and in a Klee deck, some players don't like to play Monolith, so there's only 2 copies of Scout, but you still play 3 copies of Summoner Art. Now, what's the point of playing 3 copies of Summoner Art if you can't even use all 3? Well, like I said, it all comes down to consistency. So the Stellar Knight Deneb, you just want it to see it in your opening hand. If you don't happen to have plays, you go ahead and go for him, and then you'll have plays next turn. Well, hopefully, unless your opponent happens to have back row, then obviously you have to factor it in. But all really comes down to consistency. It's also a thing when it was called Dino Rabbits, back when Rescue Rabbit was a thing. You'd play 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit, even though you realistically could only use the effect of 2. Heck, sometimes you could only use the effect of 1. In Evil Swarms, they obviously could only really use the effect of 1 Rescue Rabbit. Some players actually opt to play 3. If you guys didn't know, in the OCG, even though Rescue Rabbit is at 3, they still actually end up playing 3 copies of Rescue Rabbit in their Evil Swarm decks, and that is actually topped, and they only play 3 vanillas. It all comes down to just having that slight advantage in the very beginning of the game. You can use Upstart Goblin to increase this type of consistency. You can also actually apply this to other games. So because some of you guys really like the analogies that I bring up with other games. So let's say for in League of Legends, yeah, Longsword definitely great in the long-term game, because it actually builds into something. But pretty much most players just get Doran's Blade in the very beginning, simply due to that slight advantage that you're going to have early on in the game. And that's really all this comes down to, is not only consistency, but having that extra early advantage in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really key. Even in something like Call of Duty, we have the M8, which basically can potentially one-burst people, and that's a reason why people run it. It's also a fairly accurate gun. It does punish people that actually just use, head glitches and stuff like that. Basically, people that are camping. It's very nice against it, but like I said, it all comes down to having that slight little advantage in the very beginning, as well as having consistency. I mean, you could just ask Billy Break over here with the slight advantage when his opponent, actually this was posted on the Konami blog, so if you guys want to actually read that, you're more than welcome to. I'll put that down below in the description box. But it all came down to, well, the guy had a really strong first turn, and Billy Break was playing against him, and the guy goes for first Hereditary Beast, and the guy couldn't do anything. Well, Billy Break just scooped it up, because there wasn't really anything he could do, because his opponent was able to bring out a card. Like I said, it all comes down to just having that consistency, of getting that thing early on, especially if you're playing a deck that revolves around stunning. And that's why you play multiple copies of a card that you technically can't use, or just have really no use outside of like the turn 1 or the first one that you use. It won't really have any effect in the game, as long as, you know, like I said, with Deneb we can use this as an example, because if Deneb doesn't get banished or, you know, bottomless, or he just happens to be in the graveyard, yeah, you could realistically only need one, but it all comes down to consistency and having advantage early on in the game, whether you're playing a deck that stuns, or if you're just playing a deck that it has just like one specific type of win condition, whether it's card advantage or just being able to OTK your opponent. But anyways, guys, I highly recommend you to check out the previous episodes of Get Better at Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'll link them down below in the description box, because yeah, you can learn how to like add consistency to your deck, because I know, like I said, it's been a while since we actually talked about how to get better at Yu-Gi-Oh! But yeah, very good point that the guy brought up, but like I said, he was kind of proven, everyone just called him a scrub and stuff like that, but they didn't really elaborate, and so I figured I'd help him out just a little bit, as well as some of you other guys that are wondering, like, you know, why would you play copies of a card that, you know, could be dead later on. Let's also look at, this is also a really great point, real quick. 99% of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duels do not end and a deck out, so having that consistency is just really, really good. And also sometimes if you've already gone through all of your copies of Scouts or all of your copies of a certain card, you should have been in a position to either finish off the game, or the game has gotten to the point where maybe you can't even win. You have like one specific win condition, and if that's like if you're playing Final Countdown and you've lost all of your Final Countdowns, you've probably just lost unless you're going to deck your opponent out. But it can always be conditional to other decks. But like I said, check out the previous episodes. I'll put them in an annotation as well as the description box below. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have some fun getting better at Yu-Gi-Oh! Asian Eyes signing out.